AI just hit a more dangerous kind of maturity. It's no longer enough to score well in the lab. The same weights can behave like a different robot. Once deployment metadata shifts, and even small changes in action conventions can collapse success to zero. At the same time, the strongest systems are starting to exploit egocentric video as active perception, turning head motion and wrist trajectories into usable control signals instead of noise. And in medicine, static benchmark wins still aren't translating into reliable clinical decision-making. What connects all three is simple. The bottleneck has moved from model quality to execution, grounding, and evaluation. Let's explore the first paper, Active Mimic, Egocentric, Video, Pre-training with Active Perception. Active Mimic from Fudan University reframes egocentric video pre-training for robot manipulation around active perception. Instead of treating head-mounted camera motion as noise, it recovers synchronized camera and bimanual wrist trajectories from a single RGB egocentric stream, aligns them in a common reference frame, and encodes them as a unified 27D action space. The method uses off-the-shelf pose models, including SAM, 3D, Body, VGGT, and UniDepth, and trains a 3B visual language prefix plus a 06B action expert with flow matching on filtered Ego 4D manipulation clips. On a humanoid AGI bot G1 across 4 real-world tasks, Active Mimic reaches 90.1% on restocking, 88.9% on reaching, 91.7% on finding, and 93.3% on pouring, outperforming human video baselines such as MotoVLA and matching or beating Pi0, a robot data pre-trained model. Its pre-training corpus contains 2,561 Ego 4D episodes, roughly 10 hours at 10 frames per second. On Hot 3D, the recovered labels achieve 78.82% head recovery under the strict tolerance tier, with 65.93% and 61.72% for the left and right wrist. Analysis shows the active perception capability comes from egocentric pre-training, not robot fine-tuning. On restocking placement, Active Mimic scores 24 out of 27, but only 1 out of 27 when the head camera is removed, and camera motion supervision yields consistently higher head view, full view activation overlap in early to mid layers. Let's explore the second paper, Evaluating Large Language Models in Dynamic Clinical Decision-Making with Standardized Patient Cases. This paper introduces MedSP1000, an SB-derived interactive benchmark built from MedEd Portal standardized patient teaching cases to evaluate large language models as dynamic clinical agents rather than static question-answering systems. The benchmark contains 1,638 executable cases spanning 17 specialties and 24,602 peer-reviewed rubric items mapped to the 6 ACGME competencies, with a closed-loop setup in which a clinician model interacts with a patient agent and an environment controller before an evaluator scores the full trajectory. The authors report that performance on static medical benchmarks does not transfer reliably. GPT-5 is the strongest model on MedSP 1000, but reaches only 60.4% rubric completion, while the best medical specialized model reaches 40%, a 24-point gap. Practice-based learning and improvement is the weakest dimension across all systems, with no model exceeding 30%, and additional test time compute does not materially help. GPT-5 and 5 changes only from 67.1% to 67.8% with best of 5 self-consistency, and to 68% with a 5-specialist med agents pipeline. The study's key contribution is showing that process-level, standardized patient evaluation exposes clinically relevant failures in sequential decision-making that single-turn benchmarks miss. Let's explore the third paper, Same Weights, Different Robot, a Deployment Safety View of VLA Policies. Same Weights, Different Robot argues that for vision language action policies, checkpoint equality is not deployment equality. The executable robot policy also includes the action unnormalizer and controller conventions that convert normalized outputs into physical commands. The paper formalizes this as an executable policy specification, then derives a closed-form affine displacement for quantile-style action normalization metadata, allowing a pre-rollout exec-spec certificate to measure semantic drift without running inference or rollout. On LibroGoal, substituting the plausible sibling key long, V2 yields mean drift 0.199 over 6 non-gripper action dimensions. With P95, drift 0.275, and drops replay success from 28/28 to 2/28. On liberal spatial, the same substitution drops success from 26/26 to 0/26. Across the other suite families, full substitution also gives 0/28 success on all 4 liberal object substitutions and 0/23 or 1/23 on liberal long. The dose-response interpolation from correct to wrong metadata shows success collapsing as the executable specification moves. For example, goal with long, V2 goes from 28/28 at alpha equals 0 to 17/28, 7/28, 0/28, and 2/28 at alpha equals 1. The paper's deployment safety claim is narrow but sharp. Action space metadata is part of the policy identity and should be versioned, hashed, and checked before rollout, alongside systems like OpenVLA and the robot-style interfaces. That's a wrap on today's AI paper highlights. Thanks for watching.